Yeah, everyone, this is Thermite, and this is Instant Bullet, Volume 5. So, we don't need a happy ending. I knew this would happen. I said from the very start, the reason I was reading the series is because I know it gets canceled, and I was curious about what Akasaka Aka talked about in relation to his decision to not bring it back. That said, bringing it back, the fact that he had that idea of, I will bring the series back someday, makes me think that, it's got to be an inconclusive ending, right? It's got to be. And even the tagline of "We don't need a happy ending" to me implies that it's going to be tragic or it's going to be inconclusive. It has to be something where, like, he could potentially start it up again. Whether it's actually, Instant Bullet version 2, or if it is just another series that is literally Instant Bullets, the next series, but he doesn't call it that. Like, I feel like that's got to be it. Because the way it sounded when I read the interviews of him, talking about Instant Bullets, it seemed as if he was mad and upset and angry about the very concept of the series being ended, and like he needed it to come back. And I don't think someone who wanted that to happen would like create a satisfying ending for now. Like, it sounds like he would want to do something that would make the fans want a sequel. Also, Tequila Zaku, my good friend, he told me specifically to stop at page 25 and then wait a while and then read the rest. Now, I don't know if he literally meant page 25, which would be in between chapters 20 and 21, or if he meant chapter 25, which is called standalone episode, which I assume that would be a good place to stop at the end of 24. I guess I'll do both, but I'll keep the pause for between chapters 20 and 21 a bit short. Ooh. So this is what is her name? But it's been a little bit. But it's definitely her younger form with Kuro on the beach. Like, it raises this question of, how is the series going to end with the two of them? Like, clearly they have a relationship. Like, well, he has a relationship with her older self, but like, will he start one with her younger self? Is this just a familial relationship? Like, is she his surrogate little sister at the end of the series? Is this even her? Like, could it be that they both die and then this is the beaches of the afterlife or something? All my life, I've never believed in a single word people have told me. I learned to see what people really meant when they talked. Right. So, I mean, Sarah has been sort of our secondary main character, even though she hasn't shown up very much. Like, she's always been in the background, but she was introduced right at the start as an important character. So, and each of the arcs has had like a focus. So maybe we like, as we're going into the final arc, it will be the Sarah arc. That said, last volume, I didn't start a new arc, like a new labeled arc. So either we won't have one, like maybe all of this will just be, the remnants of the last arc, or maybe we will be getting a new arc that is Sarah focused after this. Because the chapter is called Sarah Himura is Worthless. It could be the arc of her finally like learning to embrace her power, because I mean, she makes so much sense as a final boss. Like, it is then creation versus destruction, and she is like, of all the things that instant bullets can do, of all the things that are powered by malice, destruction seems like the most like clear-cut thing to do, especially since it does like, it dovetails really well with Kuro. That said, we could also have like, it might not even be Kuro focused. It could be just Sarah and Toiro, right? Like, the person who wanted to be the hero but is now the villain versus the person who had no idea what was going on in the slightest, but it turns out that she is the hero. What do you fakes think of each other? I mean, that's an ideological question for sure. Like, is she a fake? I would not say so, because it's time travel. Like, they're both equally valid. If anything, the older version of Yume was the fake, quote unquote, in the sense that she was from a different timeline, and this is the Yume from this timeline. Like, she is the one who is supposed to be here. God, she's really getting under her skin though. Like, this line specifically, I'll bet the witch said the same thing when she was your age. That hits so hard. I mean, how do you not have how do you not have imposter syndrome when there is someone who literally raised you who was you? Like, That's so much more intense than wanting to live up to your parents or your older sibling or whatever. If it's literally you, you may be yourselves, but if you're not the real thing, then you're nothing. I think like it says less about them and more about Sarah, that she has this mindset, this incredibly clear-cut mindset of if you're not the real thing, then you're nothing. Like that ties in incredibly well to the fact that she wants to be a hero, that she is not the instant bullet of heroes, and that therefore, because she is not the instant bullet of heroes, she considers like she can't visualize herself using the power of destruction as a hero. Like, if it isn't validated, if it isn't really her, if she doesn't get to be the hero of the story, then she doesn't want to be second place. She doesn't want to be a fill-in or a sidekick. She would much rather just be the villain. Anyone can accept anyone as a replacement for someone they've lost. Anyone can be of use to anyone. Okay, that's an interesting ideology. Like, I can't deny it. There's no such thing as having some sort of fate. Anyone can be a replacement for anyone else. I mean, I wouldn't agree with that. I do think that societally, anyone can be a replacement for anyone. But in terms of like pure human relationships, there definitely are people who are irreplaceable. But in the same time, like it really depends on how granular you want to get. Like if you want to get super duper ultra granular, then everyone is unique. Everyone has a unique purpose. No one can replace anyone. If you want to get very macro, if you want to divide people into their roles in a family or their roles in civilization, like once you get very macro, then yeah, anyone can be a replacement for anyone. Because, there isn't anything that only you can only do on that level. It really it does come down to just granularity. It comes down to how much do you value this specific role. If you value someone for just being themselves, then there is no one in the world that can do, being themselves. But then again, you can also go even further down. Like you can go down to when I was like in high school, I had this incredibly like harsh complex about myself because I couldn't like live up to myself as like a 4-year-old, myself as the child that my parents used to talk about. And they would always talk about me as a 4-year-old or as a 3-year-old. They would rarely ever talk about me as I was then. And I had this like deep complex of, well, I feel like an imposter compared to myself. Like I can't replace the child that I used to be. Even if I am the same person, I'm not literally the same as that person. I don't have the same potential for the future. I don't have that same, element of surprise whenever I do something clever. So I guess it really does go both ways. Like it is a parabola where on one side you have anyone can replace anyone, and on the other side you have no one can replace anyone, including themselves. You can't be a replacement for the person you were 5 minutes ago. Wait, is she telling that to Sarah? Oh no, okay, so it is like still Sarah's monologue here. You're a good person, but it's too bad. There isn't a single person who needs you by their side. So the resolution might be swaying over Sarah by like getting her to understand that she does have value. That is true though. Like I do really appreciate that we have two characters that are side characters that are constantly like maligned. And I assume like if the series had gone on for much longer, they would have had more like chances to shine in the spotlights. But I'm okay with this. I'm okay with side characters that are aware that they are side characters. I am really glad that we're not going to be wandering around trying to figure out what to do in the final few chapters. Okay, there's not a single thing that the living can do for the dead. That is why people pray, to dream of a world beyond death. Okay. So the IB of heroes isn't necessarily like the power to undo what the other IBs are doing. Like, which makes sense because all the IBs are based around malice. Like, it is malice given a theme. But even then, like, I was just trying to say, like, oh, I guess, resurrecting the dead or something to that extent would be like malice, but not really. I still don't see how it connects. So let's see how this happens. I assume they are going to properly explain it. That's an interesting idea. Like the idea that there is no afterlife, that when you die, there is no such thing as a soul. There is no immortal part of the body. But the power of Heaven's Door is to allow that to happen. To, I assume then, to like literally make a heaven. But then how does that tie into like malice? I mean, I guess it could be a malicious act to just want to continue to exist as opposed to going, peacefully ceasing to exist. Maybe. Or it might not be. I might be reading too hard into the concept of malice. It might just be, powerful emotion. In which case, the idea of heroes is, this desire to have there be something beyond that is all manifested with the same amount of force that the others are usually manifested through malice. A world with no need to eat or fight, a world where the dead will still exist. I believe that such a world could be called heaven. Maybe. I mean, yeah, if there's no impetus for conflict, and there is like no death, or death is literally just a stage, and then beyond that, you still exist. So maybe like this final struggle is like the idea of eternal salvation versus Sarah, who I assume, being the IB of destruction, wants to destroy Toro. Partially because it's thematic, and partially because if she can't be the IB of heroes, then no one can. Also because, like, in this world, a world with no need to eat or fight, a world where the dead will still exist, like, destruction would not exist. They are at odds. Okay, so this is page 25. I guess I'll take a short break. And we are back. I didn't really think about everything here all that much. Like, all my major thoughts were already summed up. That said, I was able to fix my preset, which was pretty nice. Thank you, Zaku. I assume the actual place I'm supposed to stop is before chapter 25, so we'll do that. She still has those. Like, I assume that is the drug she made. The one that slowly kills you but allows you to feel. I wonder if she's planning on taking those herself then. Like, her emotional response is there. She does have emotion, but maybe it is a situation of like, like, maybe if I took those, I'd be able to truly see if I love him or not. Interesting. Why fireworks? Oh, a cremation. Okay. I guess that's a cremation of sorts. Okay, so final part. We don't need a happy ending. Like, it is the final part. Following the inexplicable disappearance of every single explosive from military storehouses across the globe, an emergency meeting has been called regarding the use of nuclear weapons. It's okay. I think I get it. It's Sarah's power, right? Like, it seems as if she's been creating explosives, but I assume it must be a like a Homura situation where like she's teleporting them in, or like she's storing them from somewhere else. So in that case, I mean, that's also a very direct way to end the world. Just take all of the explosives. That's also a good way to potentially save the world. Take all the explosives and throw them into the sun. Do the Superman 4 thing. The world will end. Just as every story must have an ending, so too the world must end. Like, that's the thing. There's no reason why the series couldn't have that happen. It comes down entirely to my like understanding of the narrative and what I think the author wants to do. If it wasn't for that, I'd be 100% on the set of like, why not? If this is how the series ends, then why not just blow up the world? Especially since we have seen the future. We know the future is apocalyptic. We know that it will be annihilated. It's just how. And I mean, that's the point of this chapter too. Like, the world will end, but no one knows quite how. It could be at any point. It could be for any number of reasons. But it's just, this seems like the biggest reason. This seems like a pretty good reason. Yeah, like, you can't hide it. You can't use illusions to mask this. Like, this is a pretty big deal, and especially if they disappear as you're making them. Like, there's no way to get around that. There's no trickery you can use. Okay, so we are transitioning right into, the rioting and the looting. I mean, again, that's an interesting way to put it. And there is something to be said about the fact that whenever this kind of thing happens, any writer will immediately jump to, all right, so there's rioting in the streets, there's looting, people will, take the time to, overthrow their local governments. It is kind of a part of, if not who we are as humans, at the very least, the narrative of what a human is, of how humans act. I mean, is that the plan? Is it just once the Instant Bullet of Heroes is out, people have souls, so now kill everyone and allow all the souls to be free? Or is this outside of their plans? I mean, why does he want to help at all? Like, it's already it's weird enough that he wants to go back on this, but then for what purpose? Yeah. I mean, that is so extremely direct. I do love that even though she's gone, like, her presence is still in here in the story, like partially through her younger self and partially through the fact that everyone seemed to have like everyone had interacted with her in the past. Even though like we still don't know whether she was like set up as some sort of arbiter or if that was just a thing she was saying, like I assumed. But either way, it seems like she did make contact with absolutely everyone for some reason. I mean, part of it might just be because she could see the future, she knew who everyone was and she was able to find them beforehand. So it was essentially meant to be a support group at first, or not a support group, but just like an organization, a way to bridge instant bullets and have everyone be in one place. It just kind of it got a little out of hand. But what exactly can you do here? These are some good. Like I like that it's a combination of real names for the people who he cares about enough to give real names, and then like silly names for everyone else. Plus the hospital. There is something to be said about the fact that the hospital is his number one contact, and then Sarah, of course, the number of death. I mean, what is his plan? Can you talk her out of this? I do like, by the way, that we're not dancing around it. It's pretty clear that it's her. Like, no one else would have this ability. It's, of course, her. I mean, the fact that she is still clinging to this duality of villains and heroes, and especially the idea of, well, like, clearly she doesn't feel good about this. It sounds like she's convincing herself that she's evil. So I feel like there's definitely still hope. There's still a chance to bring her around. And I mean, Instant Bullet's the kind of series where a lot of the progress is done through communication, but there have been big action set pieces as well. So I genuinely don't know how it'll end. It could 100% be just, him talking Sarah down, but it could also be some sort of big explosive moment where he creates something that stops all the bombs. Or it could actually just be a redirect or like a redux of the first volume where he creates the beast again and then has it eat all the bombs, maybe. Like I really do like that we had a chapter that outright said, "Hey, the end will happen at some point. We don't know how." The implication being that this is going to be the end, but that's not necessarily the case. They could just stop it and then have the series end and like without resolving what caused the apocalypse cuz like, hey, it'll happen at some point. Even if there are no more chapters of Instant Bullet, that's still possible. Ah, also, the fact that this is essentially a game of hide and seek of what would Sarah do reminds me so much of, the first big explosive exciting arc of Kaguya-sama. I mean, part of it is just, their character designs remind me a lot of Shirogane and Kaguya, but still. But Kuro, when I play hide and seek, no one's ever found me. My immediate idea was like for the big crazy twist that no one could think of, maybe she killed herself. Like maybe she destroyed herself and then she still is capable of existing slash dropping the bombs in some way. But realistically, if she's in a physical place, where would it be? Maybe the park where they first met, perhaps. Sunrise today is yeah, so she's in a place where she can't see the sunrise, which makes sense because it's complete darkness. I have to assume that she is sitting in absolute darkness and that this light is here for, for us as readers. Yeah, what exactly can they do? I don't care who wins. I never cared about whether the world ends or not. Like, I really hope that the two of them do hook up by the end of this. Even though, again, I assume that, like, we will have a lot of plot threads dangling at the very end. If this is, the end of the world, I would like the two of them to, if not go out, at the very least, to properly understand each other. I mean, they kind of do already, without having to spell it out, but still, I'd like a tiny bit of progress. Like, if Kokage were to just say, I have a reason and it's you, that would be enough for me. Not quite what I expected. I assumed it was going to be either Toiro using her bullet in some sort of, like, offensive capability that we haven't seen yet, or it would have been, Kuro just creating something else. Not creating, like, super-powered Toiro. Though I'm not against that. I am really glad that, like, even regardless of whether we do have, like, a big, flashy final fight, I do really like the fact that, at the very, very least, we get this build-up of something that isn't a direct conflict. Like, Instant Bullet really has been the best when it's been focused on the characters and on their interactions slash communication. So, like, in Hide and Seek is a really good way to do something physical that is also very like characteristic that involves like people's personalities and like the way that they can predict one another. Okay, interesting plan. Are you literally retarded? But no, I see what he's trying to do. You cannot let anyone die as a direct consequence of your actions. Hmm. But I think this might be the turning point. I think he might decide here, like, well, this is more important. Like, especially since it's not, someone being killed in front of him. It's specifically like someone committing suicide in front of him. Yeah. I mean, this is the turning point though. Will he like double down and try to save him anyways? Or will he like abandon him? Like it goes from then so be it. He pulls out his pen, and then we cut to this. Like the flow of action here is very strange. I assume it must be just like a problem with my not with my reader, but with my zip file. I mean, I guess she is using her vines. It's just it feels very weird. This flow is so strange. Okay, so I am glad that the two of them did manage to come out to help. Just a little. Even if they don't stand by Kuro, at the very least, they are helping in their own way. Maybe it's the magic to search the Akashic records and extract information from them. That is a cool ability, though. Like, even if it does take a long time, even if it's incredibly difficult to do, like, it is still all the world's information. If you had an infinite amount of time, or if you had just, a very long time and no real thing you had to do with it, you could find some really cool stuff there. A week to learn where a lost wallet is dropped. A month to learn what Sarah's thinking right now. To learn about the future the witch saw. Even a lifetime might not be enough. Okay, I can see how that's more of a problem. Like I even brought up the idea of infinite amounts of time, but realistically speaking, you don't have that much time. So even for trivial matters, it's not very useful. And for extremely important matters, it might take longer than you have. It took me 7 years to learn about your pasts. So, man, Colorful must have been running for quite a while. Like, I guess mentally, I just kind of assumed that it was a relatively recent thing, like within the last like 2 or 3 years, maybe. It really is a power that you can only do like one really cool thing with. I know how you cried when you first came into this world. I know how you felt when your mother threw you into a river. Damn. So, like, even though it is a relatively worthless power, he used it specifically for this moment, just to stop Kuro. In which case, I don't know if Kuro can get around it. Like, if he could, that would just hammer in the idea that this is such a worthless power. But I don't think he can. Like, it feels like it's supposed to be a very, heavy, like, it takes a lot of investments, but you don't really get anything great in return. You get something pretty powerful in return, but it's not really worth it. This is actually such a good character for, like, a maybe final fight, maybe just, pre-final fights. Because it is, like, without having to really build up to it in the story, it is the culmination of, Kuro having to fight himself. It is him having to dive deep with himself to like come to some great realization, something that will allow him to grow like further as a human being. Like it feels like an extremely nerfed version of a certain power from Bleach, where like that power was the ability to like to see into someone's past and you know understand them as if you were there from the very beginning. It's a really neat power. Like it's not something you could ever give a main character, but it's something that I think has a lot of flexibility. It has it's so interesting. Like it really does just work for like one encounter. After that, it is basically worthless because of the amount of time you need to spend like preparing for that single encounter. I came to understand you having to bear so much hatred, leaving a desire to end the world in your hearts. You people who cannot understand love are defective. Is he acting as if he can then? Or maybe not. Maybe he is speaking in like maybe he is like detaching himself. He's accepting that he is an IB, that he is messed up, but at the same time he thinks everyone else is even more messed up. That's actually so cool. Like that explains how colorful could come to be. Like it all comes down to the fact that he like instant bullets are created by trauma, by this, this deep-seated thing that messed them up in the past that caused them to create this inordinate amount of malice. That's so cool. I love it. I adore that this is how colorful came to be. It also makes him like it really does make him such a good penultimate villain. Like, this is one powerful ideological storm, and I don't know how you would counter it. Like, it's not enough to just say you're wrong. You have to have like a solid counter to it, or maybe just a like people can change thing. The more I pity you, I thought that perhaps something this pure could be love. Huh? Is he breaking himself down? Like, I didn't consider that. Maybe it's because, he understands this much about Kuro, but he doesn't, like, he didn't take the time to fully comprehend it. Maybe now he's finally putting it all together, and because of that, he might stop, like, of his own volition. I mean, it's those sunk costs, especially because the thing they're moving towards is the salvation of all dead. I mean, it really depends on whether the instant bullet of heroes works, like, starting when she awoke, or does it work retroactively? Because if it's retroactive, that would make that would add even more of an incentive to make sure this plan goes like according to plan. Even this, like the fact that he's breaking down here, is he coming to a revelation, or is this part of his plan to sway over Kuro? Did he plan this out as like this is the ultimate kind of fight that would get him to like to follow our plans? Okay, so he's not even talking to him. He's like metaphorically talking to Sarah. All Sarah ever wanted to do was be a hero. Okay, I see. So he's gonna give it the old flipperoo. Like, if he destroys the world first, maybe Sarah can use all those weapons to destroy him. Maybe that's how she becomes a hero. Also, very clever. I assume then that she's waiting somewhere completely random. Like, she already thought about the place that would have some deep, significant meaning, and she's knowingly subverting it. That's an interesting way of putting it. We made the wrong decisions at the very start. Like, if they hadn't split up, maybe. But then again, I feel like if they didn't split up, she would have like messed with him a lot. He was a much more broken person at the start of the series than he is now. If he had had her, and especially if he had had like colorful around him, I feel like he wouldn't be opposing them. That's for sure. That's obvious. Oh wow, this reminds me so much of High Rise Invasion. Like the fact that we're seeing the moment right before the impacts. It has this inherent feeling of dread, of inevitability. Whereas, like, I guess if someone like just falls off a roof, or if you see someone plummeting like halfway down, like in an issue of Spider-Man, there's always that feeling of, well, even if it's realistically not possible to save them from here, like it's not that scary, sure. Like they can still save themselves or be saved, maybe. But showing the moment like a meter away from the ground, that is always super dreadful because there's no way around it. Like, even if you were to stop, the velocity would be too much. It's that feeling of no matter what you do, you're screwed. There's no way to stop this. Oh, that's Sarah. Yeah, I even though this is black bordered, I did not realize this was a flashback until right now. I see what they're going to do, especially since I just looked at this page. But I don't think this immediate reaction is a clear sign of being evil or even being a sociopath because she's so young. Like when I was younger, not the same age, but I want to say around 6 or so, um, my a cousin committed suicide, like my older cousin, much older. And his mom, my aunt, like sat down with me and just wanted to talk to me for a bit to make sure I was doing okay as a small child. It's a grieving thing. And when I heard that he had committed suicide, like I knew what suicide was at that point, and she explained it to me anyways. And for some reason, I could not stop laughing. And I think about that a lot. Like, how must she have felt? She didn't do anything that seemed, weird or violent or aggressive after I laughed, but in hindsight, I must have looked so evil. Like, that is an extremely eerie image. Hmm. So, like, how did she go from this to wanting to be a hero specifically? Because when I think of heroes, I generally think of like someone who gets, something from helping others. Like it is that very I guess if she just wants to do it for herself. Okay, that's not what I expected. So, through the power of Super Sentai, she learned about justice. That does explain the way she acts, though. Like, she definitely does have that like super black and white kitty sense of morality, and I can see that working too. Like, Super Sentai does have like moral gray here and there, but for the most part, things are like very clear cut as to what's good and what's bad. Like, if you watch the entire season, you'll be able to you'll have a good idea of what's good and what's bad. And I suppose that is also something that even if you yourself, like even if you can't empathize with other people, if you agree that yeah, that hero is cool and this is what this hero considers to be justice, then you would pick up that concept of justice. Oh boy, okay, that's yeah. I can vaguely understand what this must be like. Like, to have lived this entire time not realizing that she was a sociopath, that, she is different from other people, like, just being kind of blissfully ignorant of it, and then right here, finally realizing it. Like, I've never experienced something like that specifically, but I've definitely had moments, like as a kid especially, where I had a sudden realization of, oh, this is the way the world works. Like, especially, that moment that I think everyone has, where they realize that their parents are normal people just like them. Like, there's no inherent thing that makes them more qualified or more, like, knowledgeable than you. Like, it must feel like that, but times a million to realize that, oh, I am fundamentally different than everyone else. Like, there is no one that thinks the way I do, or the way I think isn't just quirky, it's downright not, like, not okay. Like, looking at her mom and realizing that, oh, mom's crying. I'm not crying. I have, like, whatever's happening to her is not happening to me in the slightest. That's weird, isn't it? I get why her mom is freaking out here, but and especially like, the beer cans, the fact that things are a bit of a mess. Like, clearly she's not in her right mind. But honestly, I think the scene would have worked just as well without her mom screaming. Like, because you do have this motion of Sarah, like, coming to this realization of, oh boy, I sure am not normal. She loved hurting other people. She loved doing things that couldn't be taken back. She loved watching destruction. And I mean, that is true. If you added up all the time we spent together, it wouldn't even make a full day. Like, despite her being despite the series setting her up as the secondary main character slash maybe, main villain, main rival of sorts in a vague way, like, she hasn't had very much screen time. She's barely been around Kuro. But I really like that. I like the fact that the series could create this parallel without having to give her a ton of focus. Like, she still had focus. She still had a, like, powerful, like, she's been in the series, but I appreciate that she didn't have to, like, take over. We didn't have to give her a ton of screen time that didn't matter. Her screen time was very masterfully used. I mean, I fundamentally disagree with her outlook here, but I can see how she came to it. And I can see how, like, it's not what I assumed, which was that because she can't be the IB of heroes, because she's not a hero, she'll just go crazy and destroy everything. Like, it is fundamentally tied into Colorful's plan, like the Heaven plan. It's the fact that because she has, she won't be regretful of this because she has the capability of killing everyone. She wants to do it because it is like she's being a necessary evil. She's doing the dirty work to create paradise. I can't tell which part of this is really her and which part of it isn't. Like, it could all be true and it feels like she's saying everything truly, but I feel like she's lying to herself. I just could not tell you which parts of these are lies to herself. Like, I do think this is her intentional setup. Like, she knows she can destroy the world, but at the same time, those feelings of Sentai still ring within her. Like, she wants the hero versus villain fight to work out, and she knows how it goes down. Like, if the hero fights the villain can win sometimes, but overall, the villain has to be defeated. So, what is Kuro's decision here? Like, what can he create here to either convince her to stop or to negate the bombs? Got all wrong. I'm not going to save the world, and you're not going to destroy it. I mean, oh, actually, what if, like, because we did set up that he wants to destroy the world, what if he just creates, like, a giant version of his, like, hungry boy, and then Sarah has to use all of the nukes to destroy it? I could see that. What I really want has always been one thing. The one who's going to destroy the world is me. Okay, I think that's gotta be it then. Like, he's going to destroy the world, and either she throws all the bombs into the mouth or just, hits it in general. God, this also gives me so many Lucifer and the Biscuit Hammer vibes. Like, I'm not a big fan of that series, but I've always loved the scope of it and the fact that it was so undyingly the end of the world is a thing from chapter one sort of series, which Instant Bullet also did. Like, I'm really glad if there's a way that the series was going to end, it was going to be like this. It was going to be Kuro wanting to destroy the world and Sarah also wanting to destroy the world, regardless of how the world is saved. If it is even saved, like, I wanted this to be the way it was going to end. I hate those people who've never suffered to have everything. I hate those people who never shared what they had, right? I can see it, like, especially because IBs do fundamentally come from malice. I don't think he would have been able to do something like this if he didn't have this malice. The question then is it true? Like, is this really him, like, reaching into the depth of his soul to say everything he's ever been thinking? Or is he intentionally, like, filling himself with hatred in the same way that Toiro want or not Toiro, that the witch wanted him to be completely filled with malice after her death? This effect looks so cool. Like, I'm such a big fan of inverted color shots. Okay, I can't hold myself back anymore. You're the only one who can stop me, and the only way for you to stop me is for you to be a hero. And I do like, by the way, that we set up the fact that leader was able to do absolutely everything. Like, he manipulated everyone through knowing the truth about them by preying on all their weaknesses. And I'm really glad that despite Sarah being more powerful than leader, and despite her being, the end game final boss, so to speak, that she was manipulated by him. Like, it's not like she's the big bad behind the big bad. She was fundamentally used in the same way as everyone else in Colorful. I can't see evil people as evil because I can do even worse things than they can. I am the one who's wrong, so I just couldn't find anyone who's more evil than myself, so I couldn't become a hero. But, I mean, this is the time. This is the one moment where she can truly be a hero. Come on, Sarah, take it. The opportunity is right here. You told me that you wanted to be a hero someday, so why not now? I mean, he's even doing it in the most simple way possible, in the most black and white way. I am right here. I am more wrong than you are. I am your enemy. Not a big fan of this shot. Like, I like the inverted effect, as I said before, but the fact that you can see his eye here looks really weird to me. Like, if the eye was inverted, it'd be fine. Like, if it was just, white here and black all around, like, that would have looked sort of cool and evil. Or if there was just no eye here, it still would have been fine, because I would have looked at this area at the absence of an eye, and I would have taken that as the focal point. Okay, so that's chapter 24. I'll take a very, very short break and then come back and finish it off. And I'll come back and give my thoughts. All right, I've taken a breather. I am now ready to read chapter 25. And I think I said before I was going to talk about the series before I read chapter 25, but I don't really see the point in that. Like, I'll read it, I'll finish the series, then, like, if there are any big changes in how I feel about the series, like, post chapter 25, I will do, like, two separate things. We'll see, we'll see. Okay. But, ooh, what's the but here? That is pure evil. I mean, is it? Also, this chapter is called Standalone Episode. When I, started this reaction, I saw the title Standalone Episode. And I really thought that it was going to be more of a, like, like an OVA sort of, like something that is literally standalone. Whereas, like, this is clearly a continuation of the previous chapter. Anyways, like, is this evil? I mean, I know one of the big themes of Instant Bullet has been what is evil, but it doesn't seem like Kuro's being taken over by evil or anything. It's more that he's doing basically what Yume wanted him to do. Like, not this Yume, like future Yume, older Yume, in that she wanted her death to fill him with even more malice to make him as powerful as possible. And while that's not exactly what's going on here, it's a similar process, I think. It seems like he's completely giving in to his malice. He's letting it, swell up so that he is powerful enough to equal Sarah. Which I wouldn't call pure evil. It might be pure malice. It might be him, like, tapping into the most negative parts of him, but I wouldn't call it pure evil. Ah, man, this is a depressing monologue. By the way, I do like that we are seeing these fights. Like, that I guess not that we're seeing them, but that we know that they happened. Like, it's not like everyone else is just sitting idly by while the final fight happens. Like, everyone has been fighting. It's just we didn't have to see it. The weak cannot save the strong. The weak cannot save the weak. Is this what loneliness is? Oh, this is so interesting. Like, I it's not a singular monologue. It's not just Toiro talking about all of them. It's more it's almost as if they're all monologuing. Like, it might be all her, but like, the panels do clearly, like, relate to the various people that they're over. And then this, I mean, this is, yeah. Like, it feels very much like the last episodes of Evangelion in the sense that it is like a deep, not psychological dive, but it feels like it's trying to wrap up the emotional part of the story more so than the like any like actual lingering plot elements. Which makes sense because Instant Bullet has a pretty like ambitious scope in terms of like what it wants to talk about. Not in terms of just the story. Like the story itself is pretty ambitious. It is the end of the world. But I think what's drawn me to the series, like most of all, has been how like how it wants to talk about big things, big emotional human concepts. So if that's what the final chapter is all about, that's completely fine by me. Oh, the shot is so cool. And like Kuro's fully consumed dark form it's really it's got a cool aesthetic to it. There should be a way for everyone to be happy, for everyone to smile. It shouldn't be wrong to think that, but reality isn't like that. The world won't change if no one does anything. Ah, people's wishes aren't just good or evil, and some wishes are worth more than life itself. Is Yume going to play a part in this, like young Yume? Because she is here. She did hear all of that. But I mean, she is technically an instant bullet. Like she is an IB. It's just I don't know what she could do. Like because she has time powers, that she could do something pretty big, but like it can't be just looking into the future to spend a timeline. It could be like if the series wants to like cement that there is going to be a continuation at some point, she could just leave. Like she could do what her older self did and just make another timeline. Like I know for a fact that Aka Akasaka wanted to continue Instant Bullets, and that would be a cool way of doing it. Like just having Yume go, just GTFO. She just bloops away and says, "All right, well, this world's done. I'll go find another one." Because that would allow this world story to come to an end while still allowing for a sequel or a continuation of some sort, perhaps. Oh, this aesthetic is so good. Plus, I know I keep saying this like over and over and over again, but man, young Yume looks so much like Kaguya. Oh? Okay, let me see your watch. Oh boy, okay, she's gonna do some crazy time magic, I guess. But for what purpose? Like again, I don't know how she could interfere with this. Because like the main point of this is that um Kuro and like they're equal, right? Like I don't see an ending here where Kuro and like it's either they kill each other or I guess they could reach a stalemate. But then I don't know how time travel would even help with that. Like Sarah has an I guess it depends on how voracious Kuro's like evil is. Evil in quotes. If he could eat all the bombs, like absolutely all of them, and then still remain standing, then I guess that'd be okay. I guess, like, not just remain standing, but he'd also have to be exhausted enough to not die, but to also be satiated. I mean, oh, actually, what if she uses time travel to go to her past to find her, like, her older self, and then brings her forward, like, before she died? Maybe, like, I really do think that, like, she would be one of the only people I could think of who could calm down Kuro in this state. Like, what else is there? And it would like I don't know, even that feels like a reach though. Okay, she's down to one bomb, my last bomb, the greatest evil in all of humanity. In this case, if it's just one bomb, then maybe we will have it to be just Kuro doesn't consume this one. Like if he did consume this one, he would die, but he doesn't. It falls like it just stays in orbit, falls down near the bottom of the earth and creates a giant crater we've seen so many times in the future. Maybe, perhaps. Like that would be an interesting way to end it by saying that the world like you can try to stop the end of the world, but like the world will end. Bits will be damaged, but as long as the whole thing is still more or less in one piece, it's fine. Maybe. But like the main theme of Instant Bullet has been the destruction of the world. I guess as long as they say like it will still happen, but We'll postpone it for now. It doesn't have to all happen all at once. That'd be okay. I do like that we're bringing this up again, by the way, because like more so than the problem of evil and like what is evil, the main theme of Instant Bullet, like from the first like few pages, has been destroying the world and how appealing the concept of destroying the world is, or just wanting the world to end. Effort brings you nothing. Love isn't rewarded. If no one loves you, everyone will abandon you. But if even one person reaches out to you and saves you, okay. Ah. Okay, I see. It's like his ideology hasn't changed. Like we're going with the ending of he logically still believes in, everything that we've built up in the series up to this point, but he just can't do it. Like he doesn't have that much malice left. My wish for destruction, my wish for everyone to be happy couldn't cancel each other out. This is actually a pretty cool parallel to Sarah. Like, in the same way that she gave up on being the hero and decided, well, I'm going to be the villain, it's basically flipped around. Like, in order for Sarah to be the hero, Kuro has to be the villain. Or rather, not even that he has to be the villain, but by being with a hero, he can finally define himself. He can finally make progress. If you become evil, then I can become justice. I mean, for someone like her, for someone who has like some level of sociopathy, for someone who sees people mostly as categories, then I do really like this arc because she didn't change, she didn't like gain emotions. It's more that like she's found a way to be satisfied. She's able to finally define herself based on him. Like as I said before. Hey, that's a good way of putting it, actually. If someone gives you a role, then you can be something for that person. Okay, so where do we go from here? And what is Yume doing? Like, of my previous guesses, the answer of summoning past Yume might be it. But I can't think of anything else. Like, assuming she does something important, it can't be literally just young Yume. Like, the two options that make the most sense to me are either bringing back her future self who was in the past temporarily or going to another timeline. Like, it really depends on what the ending of the series is. Like, if it is an absolute bad end, just everything is destroyed, then I imagine Yume would just go to a different timeline. If it's more of a, like, satisfied ending, more of a, like, the world isn't destroyed ending, ah, but I don't know if I want that. Honestly, I would much rather prefer one where the world is destroyed, especially based on the tagline of this volume. We don't need a happy ending. So I feel like it's going to end with the destruction of the world. I mean, it's also what we've been building up to this entire time. In the end, we can become something together. That should be enough. God, the way he's drawn is so cool. Like the cleaning isn't the greatest on these scans, but I do like the effect here. Okay. This entire volume has been so tense and so not comedic at all. So, man, this is extremely unexpected. Also, Kuro's design, like the very interestingly textured darkness, looks so goofy here. Like it's not even the same texture. Like before, it was more of a screen tone, but here it's just like not scribbles, but like straight lines. It's more of a more generic pattern. And then, oh, his big googly eye is the best. But okay, and this is older Yume, right? So was I right? Was I right? Kuro is my boyfriend. Keep your hands off him. And you think you can fool around with some other girl just because I'm dead? Well, think again. Okay. So she is here from the past. I nailed it. I can't believe I nailed it. Wait, so it is future Yume, like older Yume. I should just call her older Yume. But like it was her jumping forward. It wasn't younger Yume, but younger Yume was clearly doing something. I mean, she might just be lying, to be fair. Like, she says that she can pop up whenever you're about to score, but I doubt that's the case, especially since she was so willing to die at the very end. I mean, maybe, but maybe this is also an illusion or something. It's a real life yandere. God. These last few pages have reminded me so much of Kaguya too. Like, not in the sense that this is a very Kaguya goof, but like the sudden break from ultra serious to ultra comedic. This day and this time. Wait, how does that work? So, because it's not a loop, right? Like, it is not a loop. It's. Is it? No, because future Yume doesn't have memories of being raised by herself. Like, the way I understand it is there was one timeline where she went all the way to the front and then she jumped backwards and decided, well, I sure needed someone in my life, so I'm going to be that for myself. I'm going to raise myself. And by doing that, we created the current timeline where she was with herself. She was raising herself this entire time. But that mean am I wrong? Like, is it a closed time loop? Was she always raised by herself? Like, is this a situation where she remembers what younger Yume remembers? Is that the case? I don't think so, right? I'm pretty sure that's not. But it has to be in order for this to work. Because if they are two separate people, then younger Yume, like, thinking about this time doesn't mean anything. Also, when she wanted the watch, I assumed it was going to be for, like, some sort of actual, like, specific magic rather than remembering the specific time, date, and place. You don't get to ogle any girl but her. You dying with some other girl is a big no-no. But I mean, is that the case? Is that a that does weird me out quite a bit. I like either I don't understand the previous art. We had like a little flowchart. I'll look at it after I'm done this. Because we did get a flowchart that showed like how it all works. Man, Dark Kuro does not look good here. He looks like he's bald and then all of his skin was replaced by like a screen tone. It's so weird. Don't worry, Sarah. Tons of people much worse than Kuro are gonna start showing up. Huh? Really? Sorry, Kuro, just die alone. Hmm. This is definitely not what I expected for the chapter 25. You'll see me another 2 or 3 times. Oh boy. I am glad that Yume does still play a role in the series, though. Like, even post death and post, not like, it's not just her memory or what Kuro used to think of her. It is, like, actually her. That is pretty great. Thus, the world moves on. Despite everything, the world's life has been extended. Their cries still can't be heard, their wishes still can't be granted. I still haven't fallen in love, and thus, the story of an ending world continues on. This is honestly not what I expected. Like, is there anything else? Oh, okay. We do have the afterword. Hmm. That's an interesting way of putting it. Like, he is the author, but he's not a part of this world. So nothing he says here is like none of it is relative to the actual world. It's him looking at it in a meta sense. It's him looking from the outside in, which also works because I assume he's also going to talk about the fact that it got canceled. A lot of this isn't going to be bombshells because, like, for instance, like this part, the fact that he's been working on it since he was in high school, it's his life's work. I do remember that. Like, the reason I started reading the series was because I knew some of this stuff. I can't just let it end without even getting the chance to explain the title. I mean, he kind of did in the first chapter. A disposable bomb is brief yet powerful. I assumed that was the point of the instant bullets. Like, they're people who suddenly get power based on the malice that they have within them. Like, it's a combination of something extremely powerful, but also, like, very brief. I want to write a story where I don't have to keep thinking, just give me one more volume to finish it. If he had released Instant Bullet, like, a few years later, I don't think he'd be in this situation at all. Like, partially, like, it would be a downside because we wouldn't have Kaguya, and Kaguya is amazing. But at the same time, like, if Instant Bullet had come out a bit later when Patreon and, like crowdfunding was more of a thing, like not crowdfunding in the Kickstarter sense, but more like the Patreon system, like something like a tip jar. I think he could have probably done like an independent version of Instant Bullets. I am really glad that he's grateful for it though. Like, I'm really glad that he is, he's upset. Clearly, he wanted to continue. He wants to continue, but at the same time, he's not angry. He's not lashing out at anyone. He is just grateful that he managed to make it this far at all. Oh, this is so bittersweet. Because I know now that Aka Akasaka is not going to finish Instant Bullet. He's not in that place in his mind. And I wouldn't want to see an Instant Bullet that isn't created by this Aka Akasaka. Like this person who's so very passionate about it, who's been thinking about it nonstop for so long. Like it wouldn't feel right. And I think this is fair enough of an ending. It's not an ending where I desperately need to see it redone. So before I talk about the whole series, I do want to say that, like, I do think Chapter 25 was good. I liked the implication of the series up to Chapter 24, though. Like, I do think it would have been just as thematically interesting if it had ended with just, it's all destroyed. That's it. It's sheer annihilation. But I do think this is more thematically important. Like, it feels like Akasaka tried to cram in the general themes he wanted to have at the very end of the series into this part. Like, it does feel like the proper ending of the series. I did think, like, it was always going to have to be Kuro versus Sarah. It just feels like, he sped it up a bit and he had to, cram more of it, like more of the themes he wanted to talk about into these final few chapters instead of having entire arcs to slowly, talk about them, to slowly build them up. Having an ending where the world was destroyed would have been, it would have been appropriate for the fact that the series was being canceled, like in that context of this isn't how I wanted it to end, so it's a bad end. But in the sense of just wanting to put the story out properly, I think this is a better ending. As much as Yume does feel like she came out of nowhere here, I cannot get over how good it is as a goof. Like, because the entire volume has been extremely serious, it's been very cut and dry. So I really, really do like that he managed to sneak in one big goof, and that all of this was, like, it was serious. He was talking about things he wanted to talk about, but it also has this big anticlimax feeling to it that I just adore. Like, I've compared the series to Lucifer and the Biscuit Hammer, and one thing I didn't like about that series was that it took itself a bit too seriously near the end. It bought into itself a bit too much. And I think this did a good job of buying into itself, like treating itself properly, while at the same time it was fun. It was a fun ending that I 100% did not expect. I don't know if I've ever said this on the channel, or if this is something I've just thought about slash maybe told other people, but Instant Bullet reminds me a lot of Linkin Park, in the sense that I feel like the sound of Linkin Park, like of Chester being super grating and whiny and yet so emotional, and like the weird rock rap alt rock thing they had going on, like it was something they could have only done then. Afterwards, like after Meteora, and actually, I guess it would have been, what was it, A Thousand Suns, or no, Minutes to Midnight. Like after that era, their sound changed quite a bit, and I can understand why. Because they had something very special in that time. Like the sound that I don't think any other band has ever managed to recreate. They've tried, people have tried to do parodies, but it's never been quite the same. And I think Instant Bullet is similar in the sense that I I wouldn't want to see Aka Akasaka try to do it without being in this specific mindset. Like both Instant Bullet and Linkin Park have this feeling of being very edgy, yet being incredibly well done. It's the kind of thing where you could potentially make fun of it out of context, and a lot of people do that for Linkin Park. But in context, it all works. It all flows together properly. You get the correct feelings, even if you do, like, even if it seems like it's a bit too much, in context, it all works. I think that doing Instant Bullet without this exact mix of seriousness and heavy themes and comedy and like without everything working together properly, it wouldn't work. It would feel too forced or it would feel not genuine. It's something that is incredible specifically because of how it was done, because it was a story that was created, like, as the most important thing in Aka Akasaka's life for that time and that time alone. What I'm saying is that Instant Bullet, it was an Instant Bullet. It was brief yet powerful. So, while I wish it had gone on for longer, but I wouldn't want to see him come back to it. I can only wish that, in another timeline, he had never gotten canceled and we could have seen what the entire series was supposed to be like how the entire story from his perspective was going to be, how it was going to play out. But I wouldn't want him to get back to it. In the same way that, as much as I don't like Linkin Park's later music, I 100% would not have wanted them to go back to their earlier sound because I don't think they could have done it. I genuinely do not think that they could have written those lyrics or similar lyrics and similar raps and a similar sound and have made it all feel correct. It would have felt like they were impersonating themselves. Anyways, that was an extreme tangent, but I don't know what else to say about Instant Bullets. It is incredible. Like, it's still a series I would highly recommend to anyone. Even though it is extremely short, I think what we have is very good. I think that the ending is good enough. Like, it's fair enough. I don't think it'll ever get an official release in the West because it's so short, but I mean, it might. Like, just within, indie crowds, indie audiences, I think there might be enough of a demand to get, like, at least a small print done or to get, like, a digital release officially. Because, like, it is genuinely very good. I love the themes, I love the characters. It felt like there was so much love put into it, and it feels so extremely genuine. That's really the main thing. There are a million ways that like, the things handled in the series could have felt way too edgy, way too disingenuous, way too, like, high school fanfic, but it never did to me. It really never did. It hit this perfect balance. If I had read Instant Bullet in high school, I think it would have, like, jumped up to my top 9 favorite manga. As I am right now, it doesn't hit me quite as hard. It doesn't work for me in quite the same way, but I still really, really, really like it. So, that's it. That was all of Instant Bullets for now, and it looks like forever. I If you guys don't read Kaguya already, which seems very, very doubtful, like, Instant Bullet feels a bit like Tite Kubo's Zombie Powder in the sense that it's a previous work by someone who got very popular with a later work, and it's a work that people mostly get into because they know about the thing that got super popular. But if you, for some reason, have not read Kaguya, please check it out. It's not at all like Instant Bullets. Like, it really is not. The art style's very, very similar, but it's a rom-com. It's way more comedy focused. The writing is incredibly good. The writing is it's very different from Instant Bullet though. Like, Instant Bullet is very thematic, whereas Kaguya is much more about, like, writing funny chapters that have a large overarching story that is built up through, like, little hints and through background information and through, like, little background details or through just, bits of continuity that you didn't expect to come into play. It's a masterful work, and Akasaka Aka is just a good mangaka. I am excited to see whatever he does. Like, if Kaguya finishes and he starts something new, I'll definitely read it. If for some reason he does end up getting back to Instant Bullets, I honestly don't think he could write it properly anymore. And he has said as much. But if he were to do it, I would absolutely check it out immediately. Anyways, thank you all so very much for watching. If you have any questions to ask me about the series or how I feel, please feel free to ask them in the comments below. If you're watching this somewhere where there are no comments, like the archive, just direct message me on Discord or whatever. Use whatever you can to message me. I will answer basically anything. But yeah, what an incredible series. I feel great that I was able to read it. Like, I'm very happy that it was translated. Do we have, like, a credits page for whoever translated this? Uh, I don't think so. Well, whoever scanlated Instant Bullet, thank you very much. The scans aren't the greatest, but they're pretty good. I'm not going to complain about them, for sure. All right, that's all for now. Thank you all so very much. Bye for now. Nya nya.